Hi, in this video we'll take a quick look at the Unity desktop environment and compare that with Xubuntu and Lubuntu. So basically the decisions that you will want to make on your preferred desktop environment might vary, but fundamentally it's to do with how much of hardware you can throw at it, what are the default programs you're interested in, and finally your personal taste or personal preference around your desktop operating system. Now, keep in mind that while there could be lots of parameters that influences these decisions, this video purely highlights the comparison primarily for these desktops on virtual machines. So if you are looking at a system that's meant for your host operating system or your regular multimedia like desktop environment, this is probably not the video that you're interested in. This is purely for people who want to look at a desktop environment within a virtualized environment. Like in my case, I have a host system that's running VirtualBox, and within the VirtualBox, I run multiple Linux and Windows and various other operating systems. So I wanted to find an OS that could be used within the VM that's easy to work with, and works with the hardware that I have. Basically, I boiled down to using Ubuntu. Ubuntu comes with the Unity desktop environment. Unity's been around since 2010. And then I've also tried Xubuntu, which is more lightweight than the Unity and even more lightweight than the GNOME option within Ubuntu. And also I've tried the Lubuntu, which uses the LXDE based desktop environment, and Xubuntu interestingly uses the XFCE desktop environment. So again, just highlighting that if you have a fast performing machine that's more modern, yeah, definitely go down the Ubuntu path. Essentially all these desktop environments use the same underlying OS. Of course, your operating system preference within Linux might vary. You might want to consider a totally different option like the Mint, or if you are more into Fedora based or CentOS. However, that's a different topic altogether. So the number one reason I wanted to look at different desktop environment than Unity is within the VM. Again, it depends on the hardware that you have. However, my host machine, which is based on Ubuntu, works fantastic with the graphics hardware. But within the VM, it's very, very sluggish. Of course, Linux being Linux, you can tweak it, tune it, and make it perform really well. But I basically wanted a system that I could immediately install, do some production test, do some development, and just get it out of the way with, as opposed to spending a lot of time tweaking the desktop and tweaking the OS. So basically, when you install Unity as a VM, or Ubuntu with the Unity desktop, which is the default, you can see things are a bit sluggish. Like, say for example, if I open an application. So now when I open an application like Firefox, you'll notice that it was quite slow, a bit sluggish to begin with. And again, you can tune it so that you get much better performance, as well as basic settings that can optimize your experience. Also notice that the screen transitions are really, really slow. There's quite a lot of overhead within those transitions, and even moving windows around, you'll notice that it feels kind of sluggish as I try to move these windows across. So overall, the main issue that I had was that the desktop wasn't really performing well. So that's Unity. So let's compare that with Xubuntu next. So let me log out of this session, and I'm gonna log in into Xubuntu next. All right, now that I've logged out of Ubuntu, the Unity desktop environment, let's try the other desktop. So if you did install multiple desktop environments, it should come up here. So the next desktop environment I want to use is Xubuntu, which is much more lightweight than the Unity based desktop. So logging in, again, the default programs, as you can expect, are going to be different. So unlike Ubuntu, which is kind of the Unity desktop, which was intended to be more like the Mac OS kind of like experience, Xubuntu is much more lightweight. You can see the desktop is really simple. At the top here, you can select your apps, search for apps, etc. And here you still have access to some of the other options. So here, what's nice about Xubuntu is much more lightweight. You'll notice that there's less waiting around. It's much more easier to navigate. You can see that the desktop and the applications open quite fast. There's hardly any lag. There's less transitions and less eye candy experience to slow down your desktop environment. So that's Xubuntu. Again, it's much more lightweight. It's built on top of XFCE, the desktop environment. And then finally, we'll take a look at Lubuntu. So let me log out of this session here. So yep, log out. So now let's take a look at the last desktop environment, that's Lubuntu. This time I'm going to switch around and change the desktop environment to use Lubuntu and log in. So Lubuntu, as you may recall, is based on the LXDE desktop environment, and it's much more lighter than even the XFCE, the Lubuntu-based desktop environment, and you'll notice it's slightly different. The menus are at the bottom. It kind of feels like Windows. It's much more lightweight. It's very fast. Again, it comes with a different set of default applications. So there you have it. So in this video we have compared Unity, the default desktop environment that comes with the current version of Ubuntu desktop, and then you have seen Xubuntu, and then finally we have looked at Lubuntu. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning, your choice of your desktop environment finally comes down to your personal taste, the hardware that you can throw at it, and finally it's your familiarity or preference of the default applications that you're used to. So having used all the three, I'd say my preference at this stage is to actually use it's Xubuntu. Even though Lubuntu is much more lightweight, it's just Xubuntu seemed to have struck the right chord, the balance between programs that I'm already familiar with, as well as being lightweight enough so that I could operate within the VM. It's been helpful, and just quickly wanted to show you the difference between the various desktop environments you have. That's Unity on the default Ubuntu installation, and then we've taken a look at Xubuntu, and finally with Lubuntu. All right, thanks everyone for watching.